There's a particular kind of person who only becomes dangerous after they've been hurt. Not violent, dangerous the way a locked door becomes dangerous the second someone tells you you're not allowed through it. Picture this person the day after the humiliation, the rejection, the moment someone looked at them and decided, quietly, they weren't worth the effort. Something switches on that wasn't on before. They're up at 5 a.m. training. They finished the book they'd been avoiding for 3 years in a single weekend. Ask them what changed, and most of them can't actually tell you. They just know something hurt, and then something moved. Here's the part almost nobody sits with long enough to notice. Why does pain unlock a version of you that comfort never does?
You already know this feeling, or you wouldn't still be watching. You've probably typed, "Why am I always so angry?" into a search bar, half hoping the answer would be simple, half terrified it wouldn't be. You've watched someone calm get praised for their composure and felt a small, ugly flash of, what? Envy? Suspicion? Like they were handed something you never got a copy of. You've had the outburst you replayed for a week afterward, the message you shouldn't have sent, the silence you used as a weapon, followed by the guilt that always shows up right on schedule, like it was waiting outside the door the whole time. That's the story you'd tell a therapist. Here's the one you wouldn't. You don't actually want the anger gone, because you remember exactly what it built. The semester you got humiliated in front of the whole class and came back with the top grade in the course. The breakup that somehow turned into the year you finally got serious about your body. The boss who doubted you out loud right before you built the thing that made his doubt look ridiculous. Peace never did that. Calm never got you out of bed. Only the anger did. So you're stuck, holding two identities that refuse to merge. One says you're broken and need fixing. The other says the anger is the only engine you've got. You don't know which one's true, so you carry both, and it's exhausting in a way that's hard to explain to anyone who's never lived inside it. Stay for the next few minutes, because we're about to find out which one actually is true. And it isn't the one you're expecting. If this kind of thing is useful to you, subscribing means you don't miss where it goes. Here's where it usually goes wrong. Someone tells you to control your anger. Breathe, count to 10, walk away, regulate. None of that's incorrect, exactly, but notice the assumption baked into it, that anger is the enemy. And if you've spent enough time inside your own head, you already know that's not quite right. Because if anger really were the enemy, it wouldn't have been standing right next to you every single time you became someone worth noticing. So what if the emotion was never the problem? What if anger's just been taking the blame for a message it didn't write? There's a strange detail buried in how researchers actually classify anger, and it breaks the story you've been told your whole life. You'd assume anger sits next to fear, something that makes you want to shrink, retreat, disappear. It doesn't. Psychologists put anger in a completely different family, the approach emotions, the same family as excitement, as desire. Fear says get away from this. Anger says get closer to this. Wait, closer? Think about it. That's the whole reason paralysis and fury feel like two different planets, even though they can be triggered by the exact same event. Fear freezes you in place. Anger moves you. When you got humiliated, your body wasn't shutting down, it was arming up. Which means the real question was never, why do I feel this? It's, what is it aiming at? And here's the pattern, almost suspiciously consistent. Anger shows up right after something you valued gets blocked. A goal, a version of yourself you were quietly trying to protect. The sense that you're seen, respected, taken seriously. Threaten one of those, and anger doesn't arrive randomly. It arrives like an alarm. Not a personality trait, a smoke detector. It doesn't start the fire, it just makes it impossible to keep ignoring one. Which means you were never addicted to the anger itself.
You were addicted to what it removed, the hesitation, the endless internal debate about whether you were even allowed to want something that badly. Anger never gave you permission, it just made you stop asking for it. Most people would stop right here, satisfied. This is exactly where they shouldn't. Because if anger is only ever a signal, proof that something you valued got threatened, then the question was never, how do I get rid of this? It's, what was it protecting? Every time you got angry after being underestimated, that wasn't your brokenness announcing itself. That was you telling yourself that being taken seriously actually matters to you. Every time betrayal turned into obsession with your own improvement, the anger wasn't proof you need pain to function. It was proof that trust means something to you, enough that losing it set off every alarm you had. Here's the twist almost nobody talks about, though. Anger isn't fuel. Not in the way people mean it when they say, use your anger as fuel. Fuel implies an engine that runs indefinitely. Anger's closer to a flare. Bright, fast, impossible to miss. It was never built to burn for years. And the people who try to keep it lit that long don't end up powerful. They end up bitter, still organizing entire lives around someone who stopped thinking about them a decade ago.
Two people, same rejection, same humiliation. Watch what happens next. The first one gets angry and stays angry, obsessing for years over the exact person who hurt them. Every decision quietly orbits that person, like a satellite that never escapes gravity. The second one gets angry too. Same intensity, same night, same wound. But somewhere along the way, something shifts, quietly, without announcement. The target changes. It stops being about that person and starts being about who they're building. Same fire, completely different destination. And here's the part that stings a little, if you're honest. Some people never make that shift, even after they win. They get the promotion, the body, the bank account that should have silenced the doubt, and they're still furious, still replaying a conversation from 8 years ago with someone who's probably forgotten their name entirely. The difference between those two people was never how much anger they had. It was whether either of them ever stopped to ask what it was actually pointing at. Take 30 seconds right now and actually answer that for yourself. The person, the moment, the humiliation still doing quiet work somewhere in the back of your life. What was it protecting? Not the whole story, just the one word underneath it. Respect, fairness, being seen. If you're willing, drop it in the comments. Seeing it written down changes something. So what does any of this actually look like on a Tuesday when nothing dramatic is happening? It starts by treating anger as a question instead of a verdict. When it shows up, don't suppress it and don't ride it blindly either. Ask, almost clinically, what got blocked? Respect? Fairness? A version of yourself you were protecting. Strangely, naming the actual thing underneath the anger does more to quiet it than any breathing technique ever will, because the anger was never irrational to begin with. It was pointing at something real. Once it's been named, it stops needing to shout. Then comes the part people get backwards almost every time, separating the energy from the target. The energy is yours to keep. The target is usually the thing you need to release. Most people think letting go of the person who wronged them means letting go of their own drive, so they hold on to both, refusing to forgive because some part of them believes forgiveness equals surrender. It doesn't. You can keep every ounce of fire that got you into that gym, that interview, that late-night work session, and still release the specific person you were trying to prove something to. In fact, until you release them, the fire was never fully yours. It was still running on their schedule. There's a slower shift underneath all of this too, moving from motivation that needs pain to motivation that comes from purpose.
It doesn't happen in one sitting, and anyone selling you that speed is selling something else entirely. It starts small. Noticing on the days when nothing painful has happened, whether you can still choose to show up anyway. Not with the same jolt anger gives you, with something quieter. That quiet is what eventually replaces the need for pain as the starting gun. None of this requires becoming someone who never feels anger again. That's not the goal, and honestly, it wouldn't even be a good one. The goal is becoming someone who can feel the fire without needing to be burned by it. So go back to that person from the beginning, up at 5 a.m., training, obsessive, unrecognizable to their old self. They were never broken. Every part of that fire was proof that something inside them still cared about being respected, about being seen, about becoming someone their past self would actually recognize. But the ones who build something that lasts are rarely the ones who stay angriest the longest. They're the ones who learn to hold the fire without letting it decide everything, who stop needing someone else to regret how they were treated and instead build a life good enough that the regret becomes irrelevant either way. Your anger was never your enemy. It was just loud, and it was never meant to run the house forever, only to tell you once, clearly, what was worth fighting for. The rest was always going to be up to you. If this shifted something for you even slightly, a like puts it in front of someone carrying the same thing quietly. Subscribe if you want more of this, and if there's an emotion you want looked at this way next, say it in the comments. That's usually where the next one comes from.